first part of the carbon cycle that we will talk about is photosynthesis. This process occurs in plants and takes CO2 out of the atmosphere. Photosynthesis is the process in which plants convert water, light, and carbon dioxide into oxygen and glucose. In the picture, we see that light is a big component of photosynthesis. So in the entire process, water, carbon dioxide, and light go into light-dependent reactions, which all take place in the leaf of the plant. And then this goes on to the Calvin cycle to produce oxygen and glucose. The second part of the carbon cycle is called cellular respiration, and this is the part where humans come in. The oxygen that was just produced by plants is inhaled by animals. Cellular respiration removes oxygen from the atmosphere and puts CO2 back into the atmosphere, which continues through the carbon cycle. The equation for cellular respiration is glucose plus oxygen plus water, which equals carbon dioxide plus more water.
These three components, including glucose, water, and carbon dioxide, go into the process of cellular respiration, where we first start with glycolysis, which goes into the link reaction, leading to the Krebs cycle, and then proceeding to the electron transport chain, which produces carbon dioxide and water, where the carbon dioxide then continues through the carbon cycle.
The next part of the carbon cycle is decomposition. Carbon is the main element of all life. Therefore, when organisms such as plants and animals die, the carbon in dead organic material is converted into fossil fuels. This process takes millions of years.
Here we have a living organism, and it dies and is decomposed and is covered by mud, rock, and sand. After it is decomposed, heat and pressure turn it into fossil fuels, which is coal, oil, and other natural gases such as methane.
Human impact on the environment is clearly demonstrated in this step of the carbon cycle, combustion. During this process, fossil fuels are combusted and carbon dioxide is released in large amounts into the atmosphere. Humans drill for oil, mine for coal, and even obtain methane to combust it and utilize the heat and energy that is produced. Combustion is occurring to such a large extent that carbon dioxide and other pollutants have contributed to climate change.
Humans have found that fossil fuels can produce energy, so we burn them. In this example, a factory is combusting methane. Combustion is the process of reacting methane or hydrocarbons with oxygen and heat to produce carbon dioxide and water. The equation in this example is methane plus oxygen plus heat equals carbon dioxide and water.
Ocean uptake is the last step of the carbon cycle that we will discuss in this video. This is the process in which carbon dioxide dissolves into the oceans or other large bodies of water, causing their pHs to decrease and the aquatic life to suffer the consequences. Also included in ocean uptake are processes such as photosynthesis and cellular respiration, which are carried out by various aquatic life.
There is CO2 in the atmosphere, which then dissolves in the ocean, making the equation for this process to be CO2 plus H2O, which equals H2CO3, which is carbonic acid. This carbonic acid then ionizes in the water to produce H plus and CO3 minus. The H plus ion is what makes the ocean acidic.
In order to test the impact of CO2 on water pH, we simulated the process. We used a 0.5 molar solution of sodium chloride to simulate seawater. To produce CO2, we used a chemical reaction between Alka-Seltzer tablets and water. The dissolved tablets produced CO2, which moved through the apparatus and into the seawater. Here, the CO2 dissolved. The experiment was conducted to test the effect of CO2 on water's pH. Here you can see the pH of the solution has decreased or become more acidic due to the dissolved CO2.
In order to understand ocean uptake, one must understand the pH scale. The pH scale usually goes from 1 to 14, where 7 is neutral, 14 is basic, and 1 is acidic. Note, as the pH decreases, the acidity increases. One equation that we will later use to understand ocean uptake is the following. pH equals negative log of H+, where H+ is the concentration of H+ ions, which are also called protons. Another important idea about pH that one needs to understand is that as the H+ ion concentration increases, the pH decreases, but the acidity also increases. In order to demonstrate these concepts, we will use the following H+ ion concentrations to calculate the pH of the solution with the equation pH equals negative log H+. We are using the following concentrations of H+, 3.55 times 10 to the negative 7th and 5.89 times 10 to the negative 6th. After plugging in these values to the above equation, we find that the pH for these values are 6.45 and 5.23. You can see 6.45 was the starting pH of the lab that we demonstrated earlier in the video. 5.23 was the final pH of the simulated seawater, or 0.5 molar of NaCl solution. As stated before, as the H+ ion concentration increases, the pH decreases while the acidity increases. 5.89 times 10 to the negative 6 is greater than 3.55 times 10 to the negative 7th, meaning that it has a larger H+ ion concentration, but also a lower pH. Therefore, if a solution has a higher H+ ion concentration, it has a lower pH and the solution is more acidic. Since the final pH of 5.23 was less than 6.45, we can see that the dissolving of the CO2 into the seawater caused the pH to decrease. The water became more acidic.
Okay, the carbon cycle is a natural process. However, it's imbalanced because we are currently overpopulated and we are cutting down lots of trees due to deforestation, and we are burning more carbon, which results in excess carbon in the atmosphere, which is taken in by the ocean, making the pH of the ocean decrease and become more acidic, which is killing the aquatic populations. And this is just one of the many effects of human actions on the environment.